Fear Not, Episode 129. Hi, I'm Billy Atwell, and I believe that consistently facing your fears is the only way to realize your truest self and to make those confident choices that will help you to obtain your deepest held hopes and dreams. I have faith that this podcast series will show you that you are not alone, that it will strengthen you and give you courage to face your fears, and that it will help you to permanently cross over into a life of living beyond your fears. Join me on this journey as we listen and learn from others as they share their experiences in facing and overcoming their own fears. Hello, everybody. Today you and I are going to be joined by elowry. Welcome, Erin. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well myself, thank you. Are you ready to fear not today?
I'm excited.
Erin is a millennial personal finance expert, speaker, and author who has been featured on CBS Sunday Morning, CNBC, as well as in the Wall Street Journal, Newsweek, and Forbes. She's also the author of Broke Millennial, Stop Scraping By and Get Your Financial Life Together. Erin, can you take a few moments to fill in those gaps and maybe also give us a brief glimpse of your personal life?
Oh, well, personal life. I'll start with that first since that's the fun stuff. I live in New York City with my boyfriend, whom I refer to as Peach, and our spunky rescue dog, Mosby, who, if you have any How I Met Your Mother fans listening, yes, that is where the name comes from. And I've been living in New York for almost 6 years now, but I actually grew up in Asia. I spent a good chunk of my childhood in Japan and then China. So that's kind of some fun facts about me.
Erin, would you also share with us today one of the biggest fears you've had to face?
I think one of the biggest fears I ever faced is also kind of my biggest regret at this point in my life at the tender age of 28. And to kind of back into it, I went to college as a double major in theater and journalism, primarily because my parents said they wouldn't help pay for college if I was just theater unless I got into like a Juilliard or a Yale Conservatory equivalent, which I did not. So I doubled down as a double major. So I had journalism to kind of fall back on when I graduated. And kind of my biggest regret that tied into a big fear is I honestly never gave theater a fair shake. You know, I did very well in college with it, and I moved to New York City with full intent of pursuing it on some level. And my first job in New York was working as a page for The Late Show with David Letterman. So I had some exposure to the entertainment industry, but then I just got scared and I never really put myself out there to try to make it in any sort of way.
So, beyond just this personal example of sort of living in regret, how do you typically deal with fear so that where you avoid situations where you don't have any regret?
I'm very analytical, and I think to a degree that makes me overthink a lot of things and talk myself out of a lot of potential opportunities. So one thing that I did, and with Broke Millennials specifically, is I started Broke Millennial first it started as a blog back in 2013. And it was just kind of a fun creative outlet. I never really thought about it necessarily going anywhere. It was just kind of a way for me to sharpen my writing skills and hopefully help other people with their money. And as it grew and I started to realize the potential, I still stayed at a desk job for a very long time. But after I got my book deal, I did exactly what they always tell you not to do, and I quit my day job. And a big part of that was I had over the years tested that I was earning steadily side income from writing. And so it wasn't like I quit without thinking. So again, I was very analytical. I built up a very healthy safety net and I had all of these different revenue streams. But by and large, I just kept reflecting on that one big regret of never trying theater. And I just kept thinking, you can't keep doing this. You can't keep going back to that, or you're going to look back when you're 50, 60, 70, just be like, wow, I played it safe my entire life. I never really took a proper risk. And I just wasn't willing to do that. And I think that having that big moment of regret and being able to pinpoint that and think back on how that makes me feel is what now motivates me to move past fear today when I think about like, do I want to take this risk?
Erin, do you have resources that have helped you, obviously beyond your personal experience, to sort of establish this method that you deal with fear that you might be able to share with us so that we could implement them into our own lives?
I'd love to say that there was one book or one podcast or one TV show that helped move me beyond it. I think for me, a big part of it was reading examples of other people who have been successful doing what I'm currently doing slash trying to do. A lot of that came on blogs. There are a lot of really great blogs about entrepreneurship and people kind of going after their dreams. And it was also my dad. I think that primarily because he, in his 50s, pivoted and completely kind of changed the course of his career. And just watching what he did and how he built up a business sort of from scratch. I mean, he still was in the same industry, but he became a consultant in the lithium field. That's what he works in, and just kind of reinvented himself when, for all accounts and purposes, he should have been looking towards retirement. And instead, he just kind of doubled down on building this new career. And talking to him about what a lot of what he went through and bouncing a lot of ideas off him and just having him as a great resource has been incredibly beneficial for me in trying to be an entrepreneur. And I think for anybody listening, if you can identify that one person in your life, even if you don't necessarily know them either that well or you don't know them personally, if you can just get to interacting with them on social media or they have some sort of a presence out there that you can be consuming content, if that's a blog or a podcast or a TV show, what have you, take someone that you consider successful and that you would want to emulate and focus on what they did to get themselves there and see that as a bit of a playbook. You're not going to be able to replicate exactly what they did. That's not how it works. But you can take little lessons and sort of see throughout their arc of their journey some of those big takeaways.
Are you ready for the speed run?
Sure.
What individual, whether they're fiction or real, has made the most impact on your life?
My dad, which I feel like I just answered as to why. And not to throw my mom under the bus. She did a lot of really great things too. But I think that my dad was a big part of financially who I became. And in terms of business, he's somebody that I look to a lot. And he has treated me from a very young age more like a peer and always believed in my abilities, but never really handed me anything. I always had to work for it.
If you could instantly change one thing in the world, what would you change?
I would give everybody more empathy. I think that a lot of times we are so stuck in the way that we think the world should work or society should work or what is right and wrong, and we don't take the time to, at the very least, be empathetic to what other people are thinking and have to say.
What's your biggest weakness?
Patience. I'm not a very patient person.
What's your biggest strength?
Probably grit. I am very tenacious when it comes to going after what I want. And I can pivot. I can understand when something was a failure and I need to readjust how I'm approaching a situation. But it's a bit of a millennial trait, but I do have a certain level of delusional narcissism that I will succeed. But I think that you need a bit of a dose of that in order to be successful in non-traditional fields.
If you could only have one book, what book would that be?
Oh, totally changes depending on the day, but probably Bossy Pants by Tina Fey. It makes me laugh every time I read it.
And do you have a favorite sound?
Oh, it's an onomatopoeia. In Japanese, it's koro 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 koro. It's the sound of a ball rolling downstairs.
And Aaron, if someone would like to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'm very prolific on Twitter, and you can find me at Broke Millennial, and also on Instagram at Broke Millennial Blog and Facebook at Broke Millennial, or just going to my website, which is also, you guessed it, brokemillennial.com.
And Aaron, what parting advice would you like to leave with us today?
If there's fear that has led to you already having a regret, especially when you're young, don't let that cycle keep repeating itself.
That's excellent advice, and thank you so much for that. I want to let everyone know, too, that Erin is giving everyone a special offer. For anyone who buys Broke Millennial and sends proof of purchase to info@brokemillennial.com with Fear Not in the subject line, Erin will send an unpublished bonus chapter of the book. Erin, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, sharing your stories of experience and some of the things that you've learned, and sharing your time.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
Thank you for joining me today. And remember, you cannot achieve everything, but you do have the God-given ability to achieve anything. So stay focused, out of fear, and keep on keeping on. Until next time, be well and peaceful. For more information on today's episode and guest, or for resources that will assist you in overcoming your fears, visit livingbeyondyourfears.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, where 3 times a week we move to a life beyond our fears.